Hey everyone, welcome to the Raw podcast. We've got JJ and I'm Skye, and we are talking raw veganism, healing, and cravings today. So, hey JJ.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you as always. Thank you. I apologize, everyone. It was totally my fault that we were a few minutes beyond our start time here. I was connecting because we have the Veganowledge channels connected. So thank you for my
Yes, I
technical
think that's good.
difficulties.
I think this is good. We've got more channels connected. So,
Yes.
today we're talking about cravings, which is, I think, like a massive topic, especially with raw foods and just starting. And this topic came up because I'm a big advocate for finding out the way to eat or start raw foods based on your cravings versus reading something and being like, watermelon's going to fix everything, and being on this sort of eating watermelon. This is just an example, and having massive cravings. And I really used cravings to navigate healing myself. What are your thoughts on this topic, JJ?
So I love this topic because my thoughts have changed over the years that I've been raw vegan on it, because I think coming from the diet kind of world where I was in the standard American diet, it seemed like we think of diets as regimented. You know what I mean? Like I was always trying to, I have to fast until 4 o'clock and I have to only eat one grapefruit and a half of container of broccoli, because it's always measured out, or you get so many points for this, just in the previous diet world, and all these things were excluded. And I've noticed here recently, especially doing some research and reading about cravings and learning more about the body, like what's first led me to this was Dawn started craving like salty things, and really started like almost when we would do fruit. And then I heard one of the people I work with and coaching, Muriel, she said the same thing. And I've heard people all over the Facebook, you know how you're in the fruitarian groups, and they're always saying, I can't do all fruit because I crave salt. And then I learned about the sodium potassium pump in our body. And I thought about your journey and how you said, when I ate this, I feel good. And I think sometimes we're thinking our cravings are us from our, like, oh, I'm just craving stuff because it's my mindset. I'm not strong enough. But when you're experiencing a craving, maybe you want to make a better choice of what you decide to eat for that sodium, but you may really need sodium in your body, because it's all a balance. And our body is meant to have ease of, we're trying to make it easy on our body. So if we're doing these strict mono-meal diets, not that I don't think they may have a place for people to kind of transition and get their previous cravings gone and things like that. Some people use it, but for constant making your body feel bad, I think we're just misreading the cravings a lot. What do you think of that?
Just on the mono-meal topic, is what are we trying to achieve with a mono-meal diet? Because half the reason, if not 75%, maybe 90% of the reason you feel so good on, and I go back to just watermelon or just grapes, is the delivery system, right? The delivery system is optimal, okay? It is easy on the gut. It is full of fluid. It has got carbohydrates, which the brain and body can love, unless there's a fungal issue there. But what if the grapes I'm having and you're having contain completely different things? Like the soil where you're getting them from is really depleted, and you're feeling great from the sugar and the hydration, but you're missing all the minerals and the sodium. So the first thing is to think, what are you trying to achieve by doing that? Because all of us all over the world could be eating watermelon and getting totally different nutrients. I
Mm-hmm.
just think it's so important also when you talk about salt, or people do fruit all day. My teeth are really bad to the point I can't do a lot of fruit all the time. And there's a phosphorus calcium balance that needs to be maintained in the mouth for teeth and for bone health. And my teeth really suffer. So we can crave different foods for different reasons. And I can get back to the start of starting the journey, but I really got into the fruits to the point I was craving salt. And when I'd have it, my body didn't do as well, but it hadn't had it in so long. And I ended up with a sodium deficiency on my blood test.
Hmm.
And I had tried to manage that by consuming more sweet juice, because when you have a sodium deficiency, you get extremely thirsty. And then every time you fill up with water, your body uses sodium in the body to excrete that. Now, if you're getting sodium, people like, I get it from tomatoes and cucumbers and celery, that's great. But the sodium isn't as high as a teaspoon of salt. Plus, the sodium you get comes with liquid, and your body has to expel excess liquid, and it needs to use sodium to expel it. So you'll be using more sodium than you're taking in to expel, like cucumber, and it's really hard to extract the salt from celery unless you have juice, and when you have juice, it's more liquid. So over time, there's no way you can't not need a little bit of, at least a little. I don't even think it's a lot. I find once I got my electrolytes back, just a crack of salt here and there you can maintain. But I mean, it changes. And I see in the fruitarian groups, long-term fruitarians who don't even have a lot of greens, say they do fruit and salt, or fruit. And I started with salt water until I could assimilate cracked salt. So I like to see like patterns that go on long term. But I
Hmm.
think I've kind of gone off there on the sodium tangent. But before I got to a point of an electrolyte imbalance on my blood test, I had felt terrible, consuming excessive things, and I was so confused at this point as to how to listen to my body. So I feel as well, if you know the start of my story, is I couldn't read or connect with people, and I literally ate foods like veggies and started to feel better, just raw.
Hmm.
And as I started to become, my brain worked again, I started reading and become academic and critical thinking, as opposed to
Hmm.
intuitive eating like animals do. And I feel that got me in trouble. And I'm very grateful for my brain back. But then the conundrum comes that a lot of my choices are from what I've watched, from what I've read, and from what I see around the community.
That's amazing. And like I just did a video here recently about how we can learn from nature when it comes to cravings, because I was thinking about how nature, like you said, if you don't have all this intellect as far as like all these pre-programmed things, and you don't have a bunch of food around you that is not great food, I was thinking about how nature just like, okay, I know I'm a plant and I need the sunlight, so I just lean towards it. Like you can even see in
Yeah.
nature, they lean into it. Well, for some reason we know what we need and what's good for us, but somewhere along the line our brain was wired to, I should be able to do what I want, and lean away from the things that we know are good for us. And if we just give into that and give into the nature of how our body works and what's good for it, it can really make things, the struggle will go away, because our biggest struggle is not eating. Like if we're saying we're giving in, quote unquote, to these cravings, it doesn't mean that our craving is wrong. I think it might mean that in our modern world, when we're on a diet, that's why people probably say, oh, I only did raw vegan for a month and then I gave up on it, or I only, even whatever diet you're doing, a lot of people
Mhm.
can't sustain it. And I think it's because they're missing nutrients, not missing necessarily the old way of eating. But we go back to things that we know. Or the person next to you is eating a cupcake and you may be low in fats, healthy fats, but you grab the
Yeah.
cupcake because your body is built, and your brain, to go from the easiest way from here to there. That's one of the things that we have, the beauty of our brain, like when we're trying to solve problems. But it's also one of the things that we have to kind of really take a step back to our intellect, to your point, and follow our body, and then go ahead and research. Because a lot of people go from raw to cooked, raw to cooked, raw to cooked. And I have had to find several times ways to get raw foods that are giving me what I'm missing, where I'm just running to cooked food because it's the comfort and it's what I know and it's the quickest way from here to there. So
Mm.
not that I'm anti, how it's not like I don't appreciate people that are high raw. It's just, it doesn't work for me. I've tried it a few times and it seems that things start going the wrong way, as far as um, different things in my body and inflammation. So like for me, finding those ways to do it raw is really worth it. And it's always been something I'm missing. The last time when I was having the
Yep.
beans, I realized I just needed to eat some nuts. Like that's all I was missing, was that protein or fat or whatever it was I was needing. It wasn't that I needed to really cook beans, and because then that caused bloating and inflammation and things that I didn't want. And it's just very interesting to look at how people are given this information, and these one size fit all. I think it's very important to have a coach like yourself, and listen to information of people that are near your age that might be dealing with the same type of things, and help you understand your cravings, and not just automatically. Sometimes it might be our mind taking us down the wrong way, like if it's a nostalgic
Mm.
food. But like if it's something like that you feel like you need, it's not okay to just say no. Force yourself for 6 months to stay on one thing if you're not feeling good. That point is to feel good. But you know what I'm saying, like there's so many ways to feel good, but deep inside if something's a detox symptom, or if it is. And I've heard you say this before, don't mistake someone telling you it's detox for something you may need.
Yeah, there's so many things I could talk about here because emotions really come into it. But I really want to talk about a way that I believe we really don't have any problems in understanding what our body needs. And that is, we are animals, not just in the sense that we eat food like animals, but all other animals besides domesticated ones live outdoors. Okay. And I don't think people understand what happens to the human body when it is in contact with the earth. If you even do like an MRI scan, or I think it's emission positron scans as well, which give a feedback of inflammation and different levels of wavelengths in the body. So reading inflammation. And as soon as somebody treads on the earth, instantaneously, the level of inflammation in all organs, in all of the outside of the body, including the brain, calms. And that means nutrient intake, nutrient uptake, digestion, thought, everything changes when we stand on the earth. Ask a person who's gone to Bali or Thailand, and even if there's not a huge amount of durians and things like that, if how much they struggled when they're outdoors most of the day in swimwear, so they're getting a lot of sunlight, they're getting the earth and just eating fruit, how often they think about needing a bolognese or going to a service station and picking up a Twinkie, or I think that's what they're called. They don't think about it
Mm-hmm.
because it's like we have to remember everything we're doing comes down to electricity, right? And I like to talk about that because then I can talk about it with what the earth will give you. And the biggest thing is what happens is under a microscope, also the blood starts to stick together. But what they notice about the cells of the body when you're on the earth is the cells, and these potassium sodium gateways are hugely impacted, is nutrients and gates just start randomly opening on cells when you're disconnected from the earth. So small amounts of nutrients and electrons and protons are going through cells randomly.
Wow.
Inflammation, and the food we're eating is playing a huge part in that. But we can balance that by being on the earth. Now, what does that mean? As a coach, I will actually get people, because it's 6 degrees outside today and I walked half the way home with no shoes on grass. You need to be on grass, on the earth, or on rocks, or in the ocean. I get people who are living in freezing temperatures to put 4 layers of socks on, which are conductive, so like cotton, like natural. Put a towel out because it'll be damp, and find somewhere grassy, dig away the snow. I don't care. It takes an instant. Now, obviously, the longer, if you're in a tropical place, the longer you're on the earth, the more you are not inside and inflamed. And once again, these nutrients are things crossing the cells randomly. Your body will start craving things to balance it because that's what it's learnt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to bring this up, because it's huge. When I healed myself, not only did I eat whatever I wanted as long as it was raw, my only rule was raw because I got sick, couldn't get up when it was cooked. But I was outdoors all day, especially when I was trying to regulate my nervous system when I quit smoking, drinking, vaping, pharmaceutical drugs, and addictive foods, all thrown out the window instantly. Is I couldn't regulate, and I'd find myself in the park, local park, or if I couldn't get down there because I was still pretty sick, is we had a concrete car park out the back and a tree would be sticking up. I would grab onto the tree and just hug it. And you'd notice when I was dysregulated, I would break leaves and stuff. And once my system got alkalized and calm and I was outside a lot and eating alkaline foods, is I could hold leaves again and not break. I was like, literally, my nervous system would break things around me. And I just think before we go into the emotions and regulating, it's free. We tend to be so far away from, and to the point where I want Layla on the women's podcast. She sleeps outside on the earth and eats raw food. Now, when she was eating raw foods and cooked plant-based foods with meat, she had a child and the child was born and she felt pain. She had 2 children sleeping on the earth while eating raw food, and the babies came out in the amniotic sac like an animal, and like in an orgasm type way, like in an ejection type way, very quickly, and then she's up doing the laundry. The body can be so regulated. So before we get into cravings, is you need people to find a way to eat your salad with your bottom on the ground. If you live in the snow, as I said, go outside instantaneously, only if you can get out there for, say, 15 seconds each day, come back in, you will be more regulated. So that for me is like a huge part of, because you'll notice it's winter for me now, and I'm really struggling more so with cravings. In summer, I'm at the beach with a watermelon and I'm not thinking of anything, but I'm present. So I think that I wanted to just go into how huge that is for cravings and the body.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love getting out and, like people also, how it affects our mood. And sometimes when our mood is better, we can manage our diet better, when we sleep, when we like go outside and get sunlight, you just feel differently because there are so many vitamins in the sun. And I saw, I think you showed a story one time on your Facebook. The little kid was it a baby? I think it was, but they had their hand on some kind of electrode. Maybe it was someone else's, and they showed actually the energy levels.
Mine. The
ground. And then they stepped back on the concrete, and then they stepped on the ground, and it's like, yeah, I mean, we can start there. Just start, if that's all you can do, start by getting outside. That automatically can help. And it's amazing how it all plays a big part. Like, we're really complex organisms, but it's also a very simple diet. It's get sunlight. As long as it's raw, you can eat it. It don't overcomplicate it, because find a couple of things you like and start there. You can always add and build on and take things off and follow. Like, I don't know if this happens to you, but now that I am speaking of cravings, it's not always cravings anymore for me for stuff that is like, unless it's right in front of me, then maybe I have an emotional attachment. But I'll start craving something strange, even a raw food that I haven't had in a while. And to me, it means that my body is back to knowing possibly what it needs. Like, if I was in the wild, I'd go like looking around, foraging for it, because I'm listening to that. And now I've had so much time in of raw or high raw that I'm thinking of that food instead of what someone coming right away from standard American diet. If they're missing vitamin A, they might be, like you said, going for the cereal or something that they may have, their body remembered had that in it, but they don't even know it, so it is interesting. I'll just all of a sudden, like today, I was just like, I want cantaloupe. Sometimes it happens with watermelon, and sometimes like oranges, like it could be banana. Like, sometimes I think potassium might be what I'm needing, so my body is going for those. Like, we don't know, but that's why I would say don't ignore it and say, no, I'm supposed to have my, melons first. Well, that's great. You should like have them by themselves. But if you're not feeling that, have what you want, because that's the only way you're going to stay with it as far as when it comes to raw foods. And if you're craving something from your previous diet, something that you feel like isn't going to serve you or is going to cause you inflammation and things you're not trying to lean towards, look up what's in it in a way and think about it, or consult one of us and see what a good alternative could be for that as far as, when people say, oh, I have to have meat or I have to have egg or I have to have this or that, it's usually something we're missing in our raw diet, I've found. And you brought up the soil. That's a great point too, because it doesn't always mean you're getting the same nutrients if they haven't treated
No,
the soil properly.
you are only getting what's in the soil. So someone over in America could be saying, oh, I ate watermelon for 3 months. And someone here in Australia could say, I only got through it for a month. Now, there's so many different levels to why that could be. But one of them is very possibly you are only eating what's in the soil. So you're not eating anything else. And the mistake I think we make most often is that fruit is the ultimate delivery system. So before we even get what we need, we're already feeling good just from getting, as I said, carbohydrates and hydration and no irritation in the gut. So you may need a mineral, let's say it's zinc, and you start eating a lot of pumpkin seeds and you start getting the zinc, but it's at a cost. Now, the human body and animals, we work like this. This is what we have to remember as well, is when people are like, oh my God, I've got mucus, is we live in a reality where the air quality isn't that good. We live indoors. We need different nutrients for different reasons. Your body is designed and made to create more mucus. So you get the zinc and you don't go, oh, well, I'm eating watermelon and now my hair's falling out, but, I haven't got mucus. So I think we also have to trust in what the body is capable of. And you should know your limits. As in, like, every time I've gotten sick or something's gone wrong, there's two things. I will not let myself have anything that's not raw. So Skye, educate yourself on everything that's raw. You do sprouts, think of fermented foods, think of seaweeds, everything in its rawest form. Because I don't do what my memory of what was happening to me when I ate cooked food was not good. I want to also talk just quickly on, before we even talk about getting into emotions, is the bacteria in our gut really do drive a lot of things, and so do the brain. And it's hard to distinguish the two. And if I dive deep into one, it's problematic. It's better to talk about things as a whole. Now, what I notice, and I studied psychology, so I want to talk on this because I love it, is that when I start eating like cacao with maple syrup and vanilla extract, these to me are treat things. Like, they're not technically raw, but they sit on that line that in winter if I want one, I'll have one. What I notice is it does create more inflammation in the body, and it creates, and I assume it does this in most people, is more hydrochloric acid and inflammation. So the body starts to protect itself. You'll notice you will be a bit more sinusy. And that's more than likely because as we age, our guts get weaker, and a lot of the hydrochloric acid, the valve that protects the gut, is weaker, and we sleep at night and we get this. When I set my body's environment up for things that are not high raw, like I haven't been eating just melons all day or something, is when I'm out, my interpretation of smells changes to the point where I went past a bakery this morning and the sugary icing smell comes through. Now, we've got gut bacteria in the brain talking to us, and it's coming through at a level of, I've set my environment up for a kind of almost cooked food situation, if that makes sense. So when I smell it, it smells very intuitive to just grab it. So I've weakened myself. I put myself in a situation where there's more of a chance that I would go and just grab it. Obviously, my body wanted some energy, and the bacteria in my gut would change by eating foods like, as I said, vanilla extract and cacao, and what else did I say? Maple syrup, which I don't have these very often. It's like a blue moon thing, but I noticed this pattern which occurs. So when you could call it lowering your vibration, which technically it is, but you're getting different bacteria, and your brain is feeding into schemas that you've built when you used to eat more cooked food, more processed foods. So you're setting yourself up not for a great space. It's going to be harder. It's harder for people who are eating a cooked food diet to get onto raw because of the bacteria and the brain schema you've got. So this is why I try and stay as high raw as I can, because if you set your environment up for not supporting you, you will have a higher chance of wanting these these foods. Plus, they smell different when your nose is more blocked. So when my nose is more blocked, these foods smell like they used to. Whereas when it's all clean and clear and I'm eating a very high raw diet, they smell completely different. A lot of the time they smell toxic. And that's to do
Yeah.
with the brain and the bacteria in your gut as well. So we can't distinguish. I don't want to like dive into each of them because it's better to say the whole. But this is something which, if you start going, this feeds into knowing a craving, which when I think of a lot of the time, like if I went and ate this sweet bun, a lot of the thoughts around it are, oh, do you remember eating that? Or, you know, it was a cold afternoon or whatever it was, right? Versus wanting something like a carbohydrate from a fruit and sitting in a space where you can feel it intuitively. It's not, you're not feeding back to memories.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I think is important. But I'm trying to say here, it's not all emotions. There's this massive physical component, and we are better off to set ourselves up and know our limits. Like I know I can only, I had a, I can seem to be okay with cacao, but when I start adding, as I said, like I'll treat myself now and again, and I just have to be careful of my limits. And we really need to set ourselves up for success so that when we go outside, we can smell the chemicals and the bad things. And if we want to treat, we know, you know, our limits. So yeah.
I agree. Because there are times when, like you said, when you're eating really, really clean, meaning like no, you know, lots of watery fruits and things like that, and greens, you do like, to me, cooked food smells weird. Like it
Yeah.
almost, like one time, this was a while ago after I had first been raw for a while. Or maybe the second time I went raw, and they accidentally delivered my sushi with rice, and I always get it just wrapped in nori with no rice, and it was like a holiday of some kind here. It was 4th of July or something, so we, you know, treated ourselves to sushi, and it came with rice, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to put the person through traveling all the way back and reordering and all this. You know, I just tried to eat it, and it just tasted so weird and so pasty. Whereas you would have thought maybe 3 months before that, when my gut bacteria was different, it would have been like, yes, you know, and that could have led me down a road of, you know, wanting that more often, or wanting that quick fix of carbohydrates. Because, you know, it takes a lot more raw food to sustain also those cravings. And I think people have to realize that sometimes we're stuck on our portions, like that we may have had in the regular standard diet, where you might think, you know, I only have one plate, and then you might, it's the quickest fix because it's like, okay, rice might be giving you those carbohydrates or whatever it is you're needing, but then when you go to try to get those same carbohydrates from a salad, you may need to double or triple sometimes, and we feel like, oh, I'm overeating. But I find it very difficult unless it's things like that, like dates, nuts, things that, you know, are a little bit dense. Then I do find my digestion will suffer if I overeat. But like for the most part, for, you know, fruits and vegetables, my body has like this internal thermostat type thing where it'll cut me off. Like I'll be starving. Reminds me of like a cat. If anyone has a cat and they are like begging and begging for food, and then you put it down and they like take a couple of bites and then walk away and mosey off, and it's like, oh, all that, and you just wanted a couple of bites. But it's almost like that with me when I'm having fruit, because I, like, you know, was so hungry today, and I might eat like a half a watermelon and not even be able to finish it. But when my brain thinks about it, it's like, oh my goodness, I could eat 4 of these. But it just, you know, cuts you off. But we don't have that, I don't think, the same when we're eating French fries or chips and things
Yeah.
that are, you know, that have this salt, oil, sugar attachment, that are
Yeah.
also, you know, so it is difficult also. I find that's why I always tell people, if you're going to do this very beginning, try to have fruit at lunch, but have what you like you don't have to pick a certain fruit that I like. Just start by finding foods you really enjoy, and then also for dinner, eat your raw salad first and eat until you're full, you know, and then if you have to and you feel comfortable, I think it's important to also make sure our mind is at ease and not feeling stressed when we're having a diet. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to feel like a little kid getting all these fruits, you know. Even now, when I cut my oranges up, I go like this and make it like a little smile sometimes. Like I'll take a picture of myself with the orange, make it my smile, just because I don't know why it makes me feel like a kid when I'm eating fruit, which helps keep me attached to the diet.
And that attachment, I did something similar where I love recipes
Mm-hmm.
because that gives me so much joy. But back to the French fries is when we eat a bowl of watermelon, we already feel good. We eat the watermelon, we feel even better and we feel good after. You eat the French fries, you only feel good when you first put it in your mouth and you get dopamine. And you get this like thing, and you get it big with French fries, whereas you're constant on a raw diet. Now that feeds into past patterns. We actually live a lot of our life, especially the first part of our life, if you go raw, is the contrast. We actually only feel good because we're feeling like crap, and now we've eaten something, and for a second it makes us feel good. And so our brain registers that as pleasure, and that's a good thing. So we want to go back to that. And we then start to feel like crap, but we get hungry and the brain goes, hey, you'll get pleasure from French fries.
Yep.
And it doesn't, because you need the fuel, it doesn't allow you to remember how crap you feel afterwards. Plus the energy expenditure from thinking like complete thoughts seems to only come with raw foods. We don't have the energy. So the body is really just like up, down, up, down, up, down. Now you meet the raw food diet and you're going to be constant.
Chasing that dopamine.
But how does the brain cope now? 40 years of eating up, down, up, down. It's totally registered. It's totally wired from when we're a little baby, when the first parts of our brain form and complete themselves, especially like, I don't know if people are aware, but if you teach somebody a language before the age of 3, they will learn it naturally. So they could speak 12 languages very intuitively, like I speak English. But after kind of 3, getting to 6, 7, is they'll start and your hormone levels change, the brain closes off. You actually start transferring in your head. You can do it very fast. So like if you learnt French and you only speak English, the child will start to learn English words and change them over to French. This will decrease in the ability to naturally learn a language. By the time you're 12 and your full-blown hormones are kicked in, the child will completely learn every language by transferring it. But why I brought this up is because so much happens that's basically kind of set in stone before the age of 12. I'm saying 3 and then 7, and these are developmental stages, but things close off. So from this young age, we've got the up, down, up, down, up, down, as in like we feel like crap, we need dopamine. We feel like crap, we need dopamine, plus we need nutrients. And now we're going to go level. And I'm like ADHD brain, so I like dopamine seek, and I'm very aware of that. So when I knew I had to be raw, I'm like, how do I do that? And for me, it's recipes. Now, if you go to my raw Skye, ROARSKYE.com website, all of those first recipes, there's like 100 of mine there. They're all whole, complete food. So nothing from a packet. It's all like fresh garlic, fresh lemon juice, avocado or coconut. Even the dehydrated is at a very low temperature, all fresh veggies. I did it very naturally, but still did recipes because I knew for me, I wouldn't survive on this diet knowing I was on massive doses of opioids, amphetamines for ADHD for years, an alcoholic, vape. I'd been on other pharmaceutical medications. How does one now
feel level?
Yeah. But I knew my weakness. And I think that's a good thing, going to the diet, like know your weaknesses and become an expert at mastering them. You might be someone who's always had a sweet tooth. So you're always going to have an abundance of the best sweet fruit in your house. And that's how you're going to cope. For me, I knew I would have to replace just by looking at, because I could look at photos when I first went raw, just by looking at what I was attracted to. And it was never really fancy raw recipes, but it needed to be a meal. And on that is usually why we're more attracted to, or you find people are usually more attracted to certain ways of eating. Some people like smoothies, and some people like myself really like textured kind of bowls. Usually that's
if you haven't seen her recipes, you should check them out because it looks so good. I'm telling you, I can't believe the masterpieces you make with raw foods, especially like you said, to mirror those tastes that we're interested in from those comfort foods, and I love that.
Yeah. So sorry, I forgot what I was saying there. I've got off now.
You were saying you definitely needed knowing what you were attracted to, but your earlier recipes had.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Is some people are really attracted to like bowls that have like a Buddha bowl, which has lots of different things in it. Some people want smoothies. And what I've noticed is, especially when I've had a lot of juice, so I've really lowered my microbiome, I will literally crave textured food. Like you could put a smoothie and I just would not touch it. And I think like what we crave is a really representation of what we're needing to do inside our body. I was just going to top that off. But yeah, I think really a huge part of this, because this isn't, people come to this thinking it's going to fix something. But I knew from past experiences, every time someone had put me on a diet to fix something, even knowing the outcome was health, it wasn't enough to stick. But because I'd felt the difference of like cooked food can't get up, raw food, I have a life, I knew, I'm like, what are you going to do? And that's why I created my website, The Raw Lifestyle, is I didn't have this mindset of this is another medical intervention, this is another fixing thing, this is forever, Skye. How does one cope with forever? The only way I can see for me was recipes, was flavor peaks. So,
and don't forget what we mentioned briefly last time too, about reward systems and being constantly from when we were young almost rewarded with things that were bad for us, like technically bad for us, as far as like we feel like we're getting away with something, like, you know, here's cake, you know, when we celebrate, or cookies, or things with high fat in it, you know, and finding a way like what you did to take that reward system and turn it into something healthy, but still gives you that, you know, like that I'm having something extra special, I'm celebrating something, so I'm going to make this raw, you know, what is that you just made the other day that looked so good? Like
the popcorn chicken.
Yes, like something like that. And that's really exciting. And I think some people really need that to sustain this lifestyle, because we're coming from years of eating just the standard diet that we've all ate. Like a lot of us are older when we come to this lifestyle, and a lot of us have families that we're trying to also bring on board with this. So maybe something like, maybe, you know, I'm just going to say this out of the blue, not to be stereotypical, but maybe someone who's like a single guy who's, you know, 20, he might want things he can grab on the go, and he's always out and about with friends, so he wants all this fruit, and, you know, doesn't really feel like making salads or recipes. But then there might be someone, even like me, I'm, you know, I don't eat very many recipes, but that's just the way I've always been. I eat very simply. I didn't use a lot of spices and things. But then there might be somebody else who really needs that in order to sustain, which is more of the people I see online. And we're all trying to like box ourselves into this one way of eating. And we have to realize it really has to be figured out for you. And don't just make yourself feel bad about yourself because, like, I can't do what this person exactly does. It really needs to be the same concept. Of course, we know the minimal amount of cooked food because that's what's healing to us, at least from everything I've researched. But what in that can you have? And I love when you tell people, eat what, you know, find what you like. And that's the way you're going to be able to stick to it and make sure you're getting a nice amount of all the different nutrients, you know, that you need. Because I think we seek things that we're looking for that. And if we're hungry, when we stop eating, we're going to look for something else, and it won't be what we likely are wanting to put in our body. But remember, a reward is putting good things in you. But if you can have that, that's the real reward. We don't want to abuse ourselves anymore. You know, we want the dopamine rush, but we have to find that way to make it work within our own raw lifestyle, I think.
Yeah. I just want to set a situation up for a second, and that is, when I healed myself, I think a lot of people know by now, is I hadn't read things in years. I had forgotten. I had what was called a functional neurological disorder. So it was like I'd had a stroke. So I couldn't read or concentrate or watch television. I'd have moments where I could do stuff, and then I'd literally have seizures and just kind of not be able to move. And what I realized when I started to eat the raw food was this love, like, as in, like, it doesn't hurt me. My whole life I've been making choices which cause me pain. Okay, so now my choices are coming from love, as in, like, even the water I'd be like, I don't feel as good with the tap water. So I'll get a few bottles of like mineral water because that makes me feel better and that makes me feel loved. So then I start being able to read and connect with people, and people are like, Oh, when you go on raw, you're going to detox. Oh, everybody's a food addict. You're going to go through it. It's hard. And I'm like, all these things were making me feel bad. And what I'd realized is when I'd come through this, I had mastered a way, especially at the start, to only feel good. So I was like, outside feels good. I'll get out there. And because I couldn't feedback, I wasn't scared in any way. I was like, okay, Skye, if you crave like a creamy ravioli with maybe some beetroot, you're craving beetroot, let's get some cauliflower and avocado and beetroot. Look at you go. Look, that's a great recipe. Put some salt and garlic on top. And I'm like, I feel the love. And then I get into this, and this is why I do these podcasts. There's so much fear. And so Jerry said here, she's saying she has food addiction. That's great. See what you crave and make it raw. It's totally possible, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I did everything I did with a bowl, a chopping board, and a knife. And the reason I say this is because if you're at this stage, you're only at the start of a journey. You might have done fast, you might have done watermelon, you might have done all sorts of things. But if you are sitting in a space where you're flinging back to cooked food and then you're eating bread and a bit of meat here, start with the flavors. Like if you have food addiction, you're craving pasta, make some zucchini noodles, put as much paprika and sun-dried tomatoes in as you need. Like honor where you're at and love it. Like love, love, love it, because your body is telling you something. It does want nutrients, okay? And it's remembering nutrients in certain food profiles at this stage. If you want to heal, you don't have the choice of eating cooked food. You don't have the choice of eating meat. So you have to bombard your senses so you can get to the next level. I like to think it as leveling up. You can't start, you can do this. You can start with where you're at. Maybe you're eating vegetarian and you decide, I'm going to go juice. But I promise you, if you've juiced, you will cry, you will kick, you will get upset during it. And every craving and feeling you experienced and you push through on, you will deal with afterwards. I've never done a cleanse, and I don't do long ones, where afterwards I have really gone through it. I only do 3 weeks on grapes, and afterwards I'm wanting pizza and all weird things. If you honor where you're at, what if in 3 years' time you get further with your health by honoring each level, starting denser raw foods and sit there for months, and then you want lighter, as opposed to going, I'm going to fix all of this now with juice, or I'm going to fix all of this now with one fruit for a year. And then all of a sudden at 3 years' time, you find you've gone further back. Because you find these people, I see these comments, and Chris Kendall preaches about it now, is all these people who have gone to attain enlightenment through liquiditarianism and breatharianism, all of those types of ones, most of them, I think there's probably a handful that haven't, have gone all the way back to meat and then flung back up to something else. So my theory is I learnt and knew my weaknesses. I was so real with myself. I'm like, Skye, you're literally going to die if you don't eat raw food. What are you going to do? And I'm like, right, make these bowls taste like my cravings, especially to get a foothold of raw. Once you're up on raw, your body tends to not care so much. Like it literally, I could go days just having like my standard greens and turmeric and avocado, salt, pepper, lemon juice, and wouldn't bother me. But then when I want something, I've mastered what I need. And that usually comes from, spices, flavors, mixing around. It's usually fatty, salt, sweet. What is salt, sweet, and acid? And that's like, your lemons or your apple cider vinegar, your fats, your nuts and seeds, and a carbohydrate. So, dates or dried fruit or a mango in there. Start blending those three, and you already notice you go, ooh, this is nice. Then you can add some spices if you want, but you've already got that in your mind. Like the best thing I can suggest to anyone, even if you want to go up onto a protocol, like I even see Dr. Brooke Goldner doesn't say just start eating what she says, unless you're extremely sick. She's like, start including these things and build up. And I just think we come from a society where everyone wants to just fix themselves, but a lot of what you need to fix yourself, you have to learn along the way.
That's very true.
To stay there.
I think we need to walk we need to find what we're walking towards before we can walk away from something too. Like we can't, you're just going to be stuck if you're thinking I need to go all the way over here and I got to get away from all this. Or also remember, don't make yourself feel bad about yourself, because I think we come in this society that we want to be down on ourselves. So, when you start to learn to love raw foods and figuring out ones you like and recipes you like and things, like I always tell people, don't try to not eat any type of, fats at all, because that's going to be the closest thing that you're going to need a little portion of some type of healthy fat to get yourself to that point. If you want to, you can always reduce it, you know what I mean? But give yourself all the nutrients in the beginning. If you are looking to move to all fruit, start with finding fruits you like, start eating them, continue, like you said, find what you love and make yourself addicted to the raw food in a
Yeah.
sense. I mean, we all have addictive personalities. I think I
Yeah.
definitely have grown up that way. And we want it, we want what we want, and we don't always want to feel misaligned. Like when we're eating something that's really good, but we know it's not serving our health, there is a disconnect there where you're never feeling good about yourself, even though you might feel good in that moment. What really feels good, and you got to let yourself get to that point, is eating what serves you, serves your body, and is creating that environment that's going to be for healing, for your mind, for your body, but also enjoying it. And we always have these two black and white areas that it's like, if I'm eating good, I'm miserable, but I got to do it. It's not, it doesn't have to be that way. You can combine both of these things. You can be in love with your diet and it still be good for you. And you'll find people that have been in this a while, that's where they've gotten to, like Skye with her recipes, me with my like perfect salad recipe that I seem to have put together for myself that satisfies me. Maybe it's sometimes it's sushi, maybe it's, other things, but it's like I found a way to love raw food, and I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah, and also I bring this up often. If you're eating a standard American diet, you don't have, unless you're extremely sick, is even if you are, is you're better off to just start by cutting out preservatives and processed food, or maybe you cut out takeaway. Like there is total levels of addiction here that we will really struggle emotionally without. And that emotional part is what pulls us back. And if it's not dealt with, we'll deal with it later. So you're better to process it all slowly. So you're still not even vegetarian, but you're taking those steps forward for yourself to make a better version of yourself. And a good thing to do is not think about the next step. Find a way to love where you're at. As in, like, don't be like, I'm still not good enough, I'm not vegetarian. And when you're vegetarian, I'm still not good enough, I'm not vegan. Now you're vegan, still not good enough, I'm not raw vegan. Like, you can literally tear yourself down for eternity. But if you turn that around and go, okay, let me face all my addictions. How do I turn them into love? And for me, it was like, okay, I love all these flavors, I'm going to recreate them. I love feeling good. What are the most natural ways that my brain tells me I can do that? And for me, it was jumping in the ocean, even when it was like winter, once I could get out of bed. It was so, especially when I was that weak, it was so painful, but it was so exhilarating. And I was like, okay, I can access nature, spend as much time there. All the things, you're right, that don't serve me, we're not allowed to feed in to my pleasure centers anymore. Does it mean that I never go there? No, but when I do, it's not a whole package. So it doesn't give me what raw foods, nature, exercise does. They're the full packages, and good sleep, good people. I found with food is once I started to nail that, everything else that blossomed off me was nailed. Once I kind of crush myself in the food department, I can crush myself in any other area of my life. And then I can go become a victim and be like, oh, but that person did that to me, so now I have to eat this. Or, I have a family, I have to do this. Or I'm going through a divorce. Man, I could have sat there and gone, there's a million reasons, after all I've been through, like 32 years sick, 25 years in a bed, 7 major organs removed, 60 surgeries. I was addicted to pain medications, stimulants, alcohol, vapes. I was on pharmaceuticals plus food. I was vegan, but I mean, there's still a lot of addictions there. And I could have gone, oh, it's all too much. But I knew that it's kind of, when you say that, it's only a front for the world that you live in. It's become very protective. But if you actually face that you can start somewhere with love, especially food. I swear you can start to blossom out in all areas of your life. I think I really think my addiction saved me, because they're where I thrive in this raw lifestyle now. But it didn't happen overnight. You have no idea how much good work I've put into myself to get where I am right now.
So proud of you. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. But I think we all have.
Yeah, it's like we have to, like you just mentioned to her, figure it out as you go, but you got to start somewhere and add something in. And I think the big thing we have to remember too is you do have the gut microbiome, and I always find, for me, it happened after about 3 days. Even anytime I went back to raw food, you start to crave what you're giving it to. Not saying that we have to give in to every craving, but if you can find a way to get to a point, like Skye said, where you're eating the things that you're craving, but in a raw form, and things that you enjoy that you can stay with, eventually those, many of those cravings, unless something sparks it, like you said, you ride by a bakery and smell it, you're not constantly thinking of things like that. I don't think about cooked food or cravings of things, very rarely, but it does come up, but it can come up like a cloud passing over, not like I've got to have it.
True. I think a good place to start is just own where you're at when it comes to cravings. And like when I first started, a lot of my days were spent eating dates, bananas, avocados, handfuls of cashews. But then I also craved things like cucumbers for the hydration. I didn't eat a lot of fruit at the start. And I was like, Skye, you're a legend. Look what you're doing compared to what was happening. You're amazing. Like my inner voice and dialogue really was like my own cheer squad. And like everyone brings this up. Jillian Berry asked, who is your motivation? Who's your biggest hero? Who do you look up to? Me. Hello. Do you know what I've overcome? Like
I
it's
thought
me.
it was Veganowledge JJ. Darn it. I'm just playing.
But I think everyone has, if
Should.
you actually look at your entire life, you've been through it. If you've been living like needing the ups and downs of food, like you're your own motivation. You are, and it's only you every day when you face that blender or you face that fridge. It's you, it's you, it's you. Support is great. Connect with people, get into groups, get a coach, especially when you start. But the person that's going to have to show up for yourself every day is you. And when you learn you're your biggest hero, it gets a lot easier.
And be kind to yourself, because you have been through a lot, and you can do great things, and you can do this, what you're looking to do too, but also be gentle. And it doesn't mean you're giving into those things that doesn't serve you. It means you're finding a way to fall in love with the raw food. It's finding a way to make it work for you. You can still, and remember, your cravings aren't always just cravings. They're usually craving nutrients, but your brain is trying to find the quickest way to get there, I think, is the things that, and also, like Skye said, get out in that nature so you can get some beautiful sun and electromagnetic activities. And it's a journey, so it's important to keep yourself surrounded with positivity and mindset, and not around people that are going to put you down. And don't put yourself down all the time. Think about what you did right today, not everything you did wrong.
That's right. Okay, that was amazing as usual. It was a great talk.
I love having these. Thanks for having me on.
That's right. And we'll hopefully be back next week. Are you coming? Are we going to do this again next week? Yes, we're down for each week now.
Yes. Monday, right? I think we said this one is coming.
Yes, well, it's Tuesday for me, Monday for you.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, we'll see you guys
She's
next
in the future.
week. Yes, thanks for joining us. And look after yourselves and love yourselves. Bye.
Skye, go get her cookbooks.
And go get your book as well.
Bye, everyone.